opening statement, and then I'll take questions.
I think the players covered it as well as anyone could in terms of their remarks, at least the ones that I heard after coming in. I thought it was another sustained effort in terms of our execution offensively. 21 assists, 10 turnovers, shooting 70% in the second half is a clear indication that we were hitting on all cylinders. We were crisp or sharp at the offensive end of the floor. And then I think our pressure over the course of the game had a cumulative effect in terms of wearing UConn down, so they weren't as fresh in terms of their shots, and allowed us to go on the runs and eventually have that knockout punch. But I think that was a result of, you know, the sustained attack basketball on both ends of the court. And I think it was the best game in terms of Hardy and DJ Kennedy, Dwight Hardy and DJ Kennedy at the same time played so well. We've had one play well, not the other, and vice versa. But this was an example where they both played well in the same game for the entire game.
Questions?
Steve, I know you spent a lot of time when you first got the job evaluating the game tape and every possession from last year. If you were to rate that tape versus this season in terms of overall team composure, how would you rate the difference?
You know, what's interesting, for starters, we did watch some game film, but we were mindful of not watching too much because we didn't want to come in with a certain bias or prejudice and judge a team that we hadn't coached, because you don't know, certain players that played well may not play as well with the new staff, and certain players that didn't play well may really elevate their game with the new staff. And so it was a balance. I'd say we probably watched 4 games, but I intentionally didn't want the staff to watch every game. I didn't want to watch every game because I think it can skew the way you look at things. Even if you try to be objective, at the end of it, if you watch the season, you're going to bring some of that forward. And I really wanted kind of a fresh start, clean slate approach in terms of evaluating our players based on our system, based on our staff, and watching them firsthand beginning October 15th. We had individual workouts that we were able to watch, but really it was October 15th, which is really not that long ago. So, but it's also not fair to compare because our system and style is so different in terms of the constant pressing, the rotations, the trapping is unique. And also certain players have emerged that were reserves last year are now kind of primary go-to players. So I wouldn't be qualified to really compare and contrast like that.
Steve, you encourage you guys to look in the big picture as to thinking, we're beating this team, what that could mean, or would you prefer them to kind of keep things relatively in front of them?
Yeah, focus on the task at hand, whether it's practice tomorrow or watching game film or individual skill development or scouting or preparation for an upcoming opponent, and then that particular game becomes the sole lost the word on it, but focus. Yeah, but I don't want to say focus twice, but so you get the idea, But we, at the same time, from the beginning, we haven't pulled any punches in terms of our goal. From the very first time we met as a team, our goal was to make the NCAA tournament. And I think you need the big picture of, a dream, something you aspire to, an objective or a goal, and then you start putting the hammer to rock and you begin putting in the work to get there. So, we talked about the significance of this game. So whether it was the start of the season or a big game like this, the number of reasons we needed, A, it was coming off a loss, so I thought it was important to bounce back and be resilient. B, it helped us climb the standings in the Big East, which is tough to do. C, it was a big win for our resume or body of work. You're also trying to jockey for seedings, both in the Big East tournament as well as, enhance your chances of being able to play in the postseason and do something special. And then D, it's the Garden, it's our home turf. That might even be an E, but an E or an F. But But you know, you have to protect your home court. So for a number of reasons, it was really an important victory.
Steve, when you compare Duke to
And we talked about that. In other words, we did mention going to the game how important that was. We didn't shy away from that.
when you compare the Duke game to this one, basically, is it that pressure defense and the trapping that is the common theme there?
Yeah, I'd say, and also playing well in two gears. You know, baseline to baseline pressure, attack basketball, both in our defensive style with the multiple, you know, full court pressure looks, and then offensively when we're able to rebound, you know, we're able to secure, because of our defense, we secure the rebound, getting out in transition. I know they went small. They were very big early, but then they went to a smaller lineup because of our ability to get down the floor for layups. It was 27-2 in terms of fast break points. And our biggest focus before I left the locker room, what I said was this game will be determined by rebounding. And our biggest concern, you know, is, you know, our deficiency is rebounding. It's one of Jim Calhoun's hallmark trademarks is rebounding. If you look at the history of this program, they always rebound the ball well. And while their numbers are down relative to the non-conference schedule, they're still impressive. And so to be +10 on the boards means that we're holding them to one shot, and also means we're getting a lot of fast break opportunities because the rebound starts the break. And so I'd say the pressure and the rebounding, probably those two.
Steve, how many hours did they get to celebrate this one?
You know, we already circled Cincinnati and talked about, well, it'd be natural to want to celebrate and to you know, party with your classmates and enjoy this win. We just can't afford to. We have to wait until the spring and sacrifice if we're going to do something special. Because
You gave me 2 hours after 2.
they didn't get any time. There was none today.
We'll send you an invitation to this
None
party.
None today. Today was locking in on Cincinnati. As soon as the game was over, we put Cincy on the board and circled it in our what's that, stair step?
The stairs, climb the ladder.
Step by step, yeah.
How key do you think that game is to your NCAA chances in terms of kind of erasing the earlier loss?
You know, I think it just like this was the biggest game of the season in terms of being able to put ourselves in a better position for doing something special come March, and now Cincinnati will be the biggest game of the season to help build the argument or build a case for us. And then after that, it's going to be Marquette, and it's going to, I mean, all the way down the line now, each game is going to be amplified because the stakes are higher. The deeper you go into the season, there's more of a sense of urgency, and you're running out of bullets in your chamber.
That trademark of Connecticut teams is the boards, right?
Yeah.
So another trademark is they attack, and they break other teams. Considering what you came into, what these kids had to go through, are you surprised, impressed that that's what you did to them?
Yeah, because we've had some dominating performances, in particular at West Virginia, and then the Duke game at home, and the Connecticut game. When your teams experience those breakthroughs, you're less surprised because you have something to compare it to. I think the biggest surprise was handling West Virginia on the road, to start conference play. And then the next biggest surprise was Duke, and then tonight, so I'd say, but they're less surprising because our players have demonstrated a propensity or ability to do that when we are clicking and have, more than one player at a high level, performing at a high level.
We got one in the back and then one more if there is one.
In the remainder of your schedule, you do have some key away games. What do you think you need to do to be able to have this team play well away from home?
Yeah, it's so tough. I'm hoping that the experience of going to St. Mary's, even the games we've had at neutral sites like Alaska and traveling to UCLA, and the rigors of some of these games we've already had in conference play will help prepare you. But at the end of it, it comes down to 40 minutes of trying to execute and impose your preferred style of play on an opponent, and that's easier said than done because the other team is trying to do the same thing to you, and that's why the game's in doubt and why people follow it, because we don't know. There's the uncertainty of it all, and you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, and we've already seen in this league the scores are just all head scratchers, so they're really no longer head scratchers. There are no surprises. because Syracuse loses 5 of 6, you know, Villanova loses at Rutgers and at Providence, and, you know, so it's gotten to the point where you have a plan to try and impose your preferred style of play on an opponent, but you know they're going to come right back and try and do the same to you, and hopefully you can make enough free throws, take care of the ball, get enough stops, and get a bounce of the ball, and officials call, nip somebody on the buzzer and get on the bus and get home. That kind of conference.
Steve,
This will be the last one, go ahead.
you heard White describe what it's like when he goes into that zone.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've said that he's among the best shooters that you've
No doubt.
ever worked with.
Yes, he is.
Was he so hot tonight that even you were a little bit stunned?
Well, yeah, you know when a player comes out of the game and they say, "Man, you're torching the nets," puts you right back in. You know, quick blow over, puts you right back in the net. That's what I told him. You know, there are those few moments. They don't happen very often where you're able to even though you're a coach, you're able to step back, take a deep breath, and just kind of enjoy as a fan what's transpiring. You know, and with this group, it's even more unique because they're seniors and they've been through so much, and so you're rooting for them to do well, and so it makes the wins that much sweeter because they're such a good group. They've adapted, adjusted to us so well, and you're just pulling for them to finish on a high note.
Thanks, Coach.
Okay, take care.
Malik Booth and Justin